And I'm actually going to reference these guys real quick. But this is the Soul Not For Sale podcast. We are at episode 443. Let's get right into it. Russell Brand, Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson just goes in on the climate change movement. And Russell Brand and Tucker are asking some very important questions. And referencing back to the WEF. When you look at the WEF and they say, you know, it's a dystopian world, things are going to get so much worse. But the thing is, we need you to give us all the power, please. All your nations, all your governments, give us all the power, and it's for your own safety, for your own good. When you look at a situation like that, who benefits the most? Do the people benefit, or does the organization benefit? And that's the questions that Russell Brand and Tucker Carlson are both asking. Absolutely amazing clip. Let's get right into it. First, I got to bring you to the store. This is IamCoachColin.com. Again, the site is IamCoachColin.com. Our newest design is the Soul Not For Sale shirt with the red, white, and blue atop of it to celebrate the True Pride Month, which is July. Celebrate your independence, celebrate your sovereignty. Now, how do you get there? You go to America's Soul Not For Sale. You click there and you get to see the whole new catalog that we just dropped. All right. We got tank tops for men and women. We got t-shirts for men and women. And we have the infamous hoodie. I know it's hot, but if you're like me, you got to get a hoodie. Check it out right now at IamCoachColin.com. Now, 10% off. Here you go. You put in the code IamCoachColin. Now, you're going to make this all one word, all capital letters, one L on the Colin, gets you 10% off. You're welcome very much. Now, let's get into the actual video. And if you have purchased anything from that site, thank you, thank you, thank you. Like the video. Let's get into the clip.
You oppose violence of any kind, and you oppose violence. Yeah, I know, I believe you. And you oppose violence against the police, perhaps in particular. Now, though, it seems that you are inquiring, if not suggesting, that there is was another aim. Are you saying that it was allowed the Capitol Police to be funded differently and more extensively? Are you saying that it facilitated further authoritarianism, that it enabled people to smear the MAGA movement, that it created more opportunity for surveillance laws and censorship? One of the techniques or critiques that we use here on our channel when looking at news is, oh, does this allow people to censor more? Does this allow people to surveil more? Does this allow, for example, like a sort of, just to use a sort of something anecdotal and contemporaneous, that there's a Just Stop Oil movement in this country at the moment, and whenever you see footage of them sort of blocking roads and sort of road users dragging them out the road because it's annoying, and I say this as a person who sort of loves nature, loves the environment, feels that profit shouldn't be put ahead of respect and love for the environment. I can't help but feel that the media has an agenda in continually presenting us with these annoying images of Just Stop Oil getting in the way of ordinary commuters who are just trying to get to work. And I'm beginning to now critique media from that perspective. Oh, they are using this event in order to elicit these emotions, whether it's war or the events of January 6th. Do you believe that there is, as George Colin would say, a convergence of interest between the state and its desire to regulate, and corporations and their desire to profit, big tech and their desire to capture data, the state and their need to get data? What is it you're observing? Because when I'm listening to you, you don't sound like a regular TV anchor anymore. And in fact, one of the things I'm offering is that that's not a role that's going to exist for much longer, because the centralization of authority is becoming so rapid and so radical that if you even work in this space, with these new EU laws being passed that will mean that social media platforms will be heavily fined 6% of their annual revenue, and that they can be censored. The Five Eyes countries all passing censorship laws. In a sense, to become an independent media voice will be to become an activist. So with regard to the January 6th, do you think these events are used to create particular outcomes? Do you think it's just opportunistic? And where do you feel your personal role is as an independent media broadcaster is now?
Well, I think my role is to tell the truth to the extent I can see it, to say what I think is true, always with the knowledge that we see everything, through a glass darkly. We don't see things clearly. We don't have perspective on ourselves, the world around us. We get a lot wrong. I've gotten a lot wrong, that's for sure. But you do your best, and you cannot allow people to force you to lie, period. So that's how I see my role. I think you're asking the right question. And I asked the same thing about the climate movement. I mean, I'm bewildered by it. Apart from my own family, there's nothing more important to me than nature. I think I spend an above average time in nature amount of time. I mean, I've organized my whole life to be in nature. So I really, really care about it. And I'm very upset about the many ways in which it's despoiled, at least in my country. I mean, nature's not doing well. The environmental movement is gone where I live. And we pollute. We put up chain stores and strip malls and pave things we should not pave. We are very tough on nature in the United States. And the environmental movement does nothing to stop that. And so my question for the climate people, and I have no doubt the climate is changing. It's always changed. I live in a place that was completely sculpted by the glaciers, which only melted 10,000 years ago. There were people living where I live in northwestern Maine when the glaciers receded, the Native Americans, 10,000 years ago. So like this is a feature of life on Earth. And so I have no doubt it's changing again. And I would be completely open to the possibility that people's behavior is accelerating that change or driving it to some extent. It doesn't sound crazy to me. I don't think it's proven, but I'm open to it. Of course I am. My question is really simple. Which of your solutions to climate change disempower you? So when you act, you're a father, on behalf of your children, you are doing things because you love them. They're not necessarily in your interest. Like you'd rather go take a sauna or do some yoga or hop on your wife. But no, you have a child with needs, so you love that child, so you do something for that child. That's what it looks like to serve and love someone, is to do something you don't want to do, that doesn't help you in any way, but at least potentially helps that other person. I see the climate movement not doing one thing that doesn't enrich or empower the climate movement and its corporate sponsors. Not one. So for example, not to be boorish here in lecture, but I'll stop with this. Like, if I understand, the ecology correctly, trees are like helpful if you're worried about rising CO2, correct? Because they consume it and then emit what? Oxygen. So if you're really worried about climate change caused by carbon dioxide, you'd probably be planting a lot of trees. I don't see a ton of, and I would be very for that as someone who truly loves trees and spends a lot of time thinking about trees and have a lot of trees and maintain a lot of trees. I love trees almost more than anything. So like, where's the nationwide effort to reforest the United States? I don't see it. Instead, I see a lot of solar panels from China that don't work, that actually wreck the environment, industrial wind farms that wreck where I live. Like, I live near them. I know what they do. They kill all these birds of prey. It's like, they're destroying the environment, but they're becoming richer. So on January 6th, tell me one solution that doesn't make you more powerful.
Yeah.
There's not one. So that's an indication of bad faith to me. And of course, I'm not going to be boorish and I'll stop, but anyone who's interested in the uses to which January 6th has been put by the people in charge in Washington can look it up. I mean, the surveillance that was justified, the total capture of our banks, for example, by the FBI in the wake of January 6th is completely shocking to any civil libertarian. You can't call my bank and find out what I spent money on. You don't have a warrant. What? That's not allowed under our Constitution, but they did it because it was an insurrection. Okay. So, I don't know. I can't even guess as the mechanics of January 6th. Did the many federal agents in the crowd do this? Did they go along with it? I don't know the answer, and I'm not going to speculate. But I know in the aftermath of January 6th, that event was used by predators in our political sphere to increase their power and to disempower the population they supposedly serve. And I'm very offended by that. Not because I'm some crazed populist. I'm not. I don't want to burn anything down. I'm like very temperamentally conservative. I like to build things, not break them. But you can't look at me with a straight face and tell me you're defending democracy when you get JP Morgan to go through my credit card statements. You're lying. That's my only point. You're lying.
Yes, it's.
Wow, Tucker with the rant. You don't often see Tucker get like that towards a rant. So, I think he was quite serious about that. Him and Russell actually start laughing quite a bit after he goes on that rant because he knows how riled up he seems right now. But yeah, he's right. I mean, that's how it goes. You have to look like a perfect example. The TikTok act. The TikTok act that did nothing to really stifle or stop TikTok at all. The people, it was presented as something that's going to help combat TikTok and, China because they're the enemy. And then when you looked into it, it seemed like it was oppressing the citizens more than anything. You know, I'm sure what did we rival? A lot of people in the comments rivaled the Restrict Act to the Patriot Act. I mean, we've seen this time and time again. And then when Tucker brings up climate change, I mean, what's one of the things they want to start doing? They want to start tracking carbon. Again, it doesn't do anything to massive corporations. It does more to the people, to the citizens. Now, all of a sudden, if we're tracking it, you know, I've already speculated. A lot of people have speculated. Maybe there's going to be an allowance at some point of carbon. Maybe you won't be able to buy gas on Wednesdays and Fridays. Maybe you'll only be allotted so much. Maybe you'll have credits. Those credits won't work for gasoline on those days. They'll only work for, you know, renting a bicycle. I have no idea. But when you look at the climate change movement and most things that are for our safety and privacy and our basic, it's basically safety and our health. That's another one they use. Health and safety. What ends up happening? It ends up restricting us like crazy. You know? I don't know. It's a weird one, but that's the thing that you have to look at every single time something pops up. Anytime a new act pops up, like the video, it helps so much. But anytime there's an act that pops up, a law that's being passed, a measure that's being taken, you have to look and say, is this really helping me or is it helping someone else? You don't have to get conspiratorial. You don't have to think about lizard people. You don't have to do any of that stuff. But you do have to just think for a second, okay, is this helping me? Is this changing how many rights I have? Is this impacting my rights? Don't think about grandma. Don't think about how selfish you are for even having this thought process. Don't do any of that. Just think, is this impacting my rights? Is this impacting my privacy? Is this taking away certain parts of my privacy that I used to have? If so, I can't tell you what to do from there because every person's different, you know, but you should be awake to it, right? It helps so much. If we could all look at things like that rather than just go blindly along with whatever narrative comes up, I don't know. I think we'd be a lot better along, you know? Again, I can't say what you should do from there. I know what I do from there. You know, I become aware, right? Like as soon as I saw Google, you know, have you track your carbon in terms of, you know, when you're flying somewhere and how much carbon, that's something to be aware of. When a credit card company starts doing it, or I believe a bank or a credit card company in Australia started doing it as well, it's like, be aware. When more and more companies start doing it, just be aware. I don't know, but it is a good question. It's a good question to ask. What happens? Again, I'll go back to the climate change movement. I mean, the carbon tracking, the controlling your movement through certain areas. Some of it can be justified environmentally. There is, like, I've had conversations with people who agree with everything that's going on in terms of the climate change movement and how real it is, because I'm willing to have those conversations. So there is parts that could be environmental. But again, just because that might be true, it doesn't mean that you can't ask the opposite question. Are they trying to take my rights? It's not you're not crazy because you're questioning. That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to question, like, are my rights being taken away right now? Somehow along the way, the past 3 years, you know, sovereignty has become something that's selfish, and privacy is something that's become ridiculous. It's the weirdest thing, you know? You can't question authority at all, or else you're branded as, you know, wearing a tinfoil hat. I don't know. It's a weird thing. But again, amazing interview. And if you want to catch that clip of the interview, I started at 1 hour, 16 minutes, 50 seconds, and I ended at 1 hour, 23 minutes, 23 seconds. Like the video, it helps so much. Boosts us out of the shadow realm. You have no idea how much it will help us. Please, please, please. It's right down there somewhere. You've been seeing the little signs there. And if you click on those signs, they take you to some cool places, some videos, some playlists here and there. But other than that, I am out.